This is the 13th round of a season. Lucky for some, unlucky for many others, as Miles and Munster loves chewing cars up and spitting them out. Hello everyone and welcome to Dover Motor Speedway as we welcome you to GSRC's live coverage of a Rolling Thunder Racing Series. Tonight's race is presented by Rogue Energy. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman and alongside me in the booth is Joe Peake. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided to us by Dougie Beard. Well, as we start to enter the closing stages of the season, there's lots of stories throughout the championship, and lots of unique tracks have given us plenty of different, various stories. This is certainly a unique track tonight. Let's take a look at it with our GSRC track guide.
The Monster Mile, and the less popular, but still sufficient, White Lightning. Dover International Speedway is a place that has lived up to both of those nicknames over the years. It is a tough track that requires accuracy and bravery to turn an ultra-fast lap. The walls on the exits of both 2 and 4 are punishing, and the 1-2 combination of slapping the outside wall and then slamming the inside wall, either front stretch or back stretch, has caused chaos in races going back to the track's inception. Dover opened in 1969 as an asphalt 1-mile oval, and fittingly, with it being a race in the late 60s and early 70s, Richard Petty won that inaugural Cup race here. Dover hosted nearly all Cup races during those early years, before NASCAR started to bring over the Grand National Series as a companion event. By 1993, though, those Mid-Atlantic seasons had taken its toll on the surface, and the decision was made to resurface the track. In a risky proposition, they chose to make it concrete, following the decision that Bristol had made 2 years prior. In 1994, the first races were held on that new surface, and the Dover we either love or hate came into being. In more modern times, the track has held a wider variety of races. IndyCar ran here in the late 90s, with more recently Whelen Modifieds, trucks, and ARCA all having made stops at Dover. And finally, yes, the 1-kilometer quarter-horse track inside the Speedway is still used to this day, with the casino on the backstretch. Now it's time to strap in and hope the monster doesn't bite.
Well, normally Bristol Motor Speedway is called the Concrete Coliseum, but Dover is very similar, albeit a bit larger. They tend to call this Bristol on steroids, Joe.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that it's kind of one of the more unique tracks nowadays. It's a true oval, which you don't see as often, with tri-ovals kind of becoming popular in the 90s and 2000s. And also the fact that it's got the concrete around there and the high banking that goes completely around, which is the interesting thing. Yes, it's very steeply banked in the corners, but you carry on that steep banking through the straights too, which definitely plays a big part into how the cars will both handle off the turns and how wrecks will play out. So watch out for that, because it's tight around here, it's fast, and the accidents are usually not small.
And it's a self-cleaning racetrack, they tend to say. The banking's so steep, a wrecked car will tend to drop down to the apron. You see the clock in the top left corner of your screen is counting down the minutes left in qualifying. We'll get to covering that momentarily. First, let's tell you about the championship standings after the opening 12 rounds. And the points are very close between the top 4. Now, granted, a part of that is due to the fact that Daniel Eberhardt has missed a couple of races, and that has moved him back in the points. He's now 9 points back. The problem is, in order to get back to the points lead, Eberhardt is going to have to pass a lot of big names. Dylan Jones, Scott Crump, and Colin Weatherholt are definitely no slouches, and they'll be trying to perform their strongest as we enter the closing stages of the season. Jared Mogard, also a race winner, back there, 5th in the points, and Ryan Johnson and Jason Maines, our Daytona winner, back there in 7th. Michael Larch, Luke Smith, and Jordan Berube rounding out the top 10. Now let's take a look at tonight's race details here at Dover.
Absolutely. A lot of laps that we're going to be doing here in round 13, 173. But as we said, it is fast. So if it stays green, it could wind up happening pretty quick, which has been the trend this season is we've had lots of green flag racing. Gen 4 cars, as always, they are in. So we're doing it old school, but it's a fixed setup series. So drivers just have to get in the car and try and practice. That said, they don't have a spare car. So if they damage it, they're probably going to have to stop into pits and try to get it repaired, especially with such high speeds here. You want it to be pretty good in a straight line. Four total tire sets, so they'll be able to change those tires three times. And so far this season, you've really needed them. So hold on to them. Don't try and waste them. And if we get a wreck late, then we've got at least one green, white checkers.
And I believe that has happened the last two races running. I think me being absent as a commentator might have been a curse for that because I don't think we had a single green-white checkered until the last couple of races, but certainly a lot of drama here as of recent. As we mentioned, qualifying is underway. You can see the time in the top left corner of your screen, counting down 2.5 minutes left of a session where all of the drivers have tracked themselves for 2 laps. You can see the times very close there at the top between now two familiar names who have been leading the championship throughout the season, Dylan Jones and Daniel Eberhardt, separated by less than 0.03 of a second. Colin Weatherholt up there as well. We're watching Randall Nichols come out of turn 4 and across the line. Looks like, oh, there he goes. He jumps up to 9th place. So good job there, Randall. Joe, you mentioned about clean green flag running. We've seen a lot of it this season. Robert Covey had a family emergency, so he's not here to be our statistician for tonight. But he did provide us some stats, and one of them is that 93.2% of all laps this season have been green flag.
And that is just mighty impressive. That is a testament to the skill and respectful driving that this league has. So if anybody, I guess, is looking for a league that they want to go and oval race in that is, is going to have a good time and you'll get more bang for your buck, I'd say this is definitely it. Scott Crump, I don't know how he keeps from being distracted by the lights that he's got going on.
Or the dog in the background.
Yeah, exactly. I have to kick my dogs out when I'm racing because or else they'll try and bug my elbows. But I guess he's got a little bit of a better behaved dog. Crump on his third lap here right now in qualifying, so it looks like he's done in that case because they only get the 2 flyers. Still, he's put himself up to 4th.
Yeah, Scott Crump, normally a top contender in this series, and there you see he's up there 4th in the grid. I had to double check my stats because I still find it hard to believe as strong as Colin Weatherholt, who currently sits 3rd in qualifying, has been this season. He does not have a win, but that could certainly change tonight. We've got Lane Doyle going 17th on his first lap, a few tenths off the pace. Let's see if he's able to pick it up on lap 2. It looked like he was a little loose coming out of turn 2 there. Running out of time in this qualifying session. He should be able to get this lap in though as we hit the final 10 seconds. Hold it wide open, cross the line. Let's see if Lane Doyle's able to jump up the board. No, looked like that moment in turn 2 cost him, and he's going to stay down there in 17th as qualifying comes to an end with Dylan Jones on pole position.
And I'm not sure that this track, the track position will mean quite as much, although at times passing can be somewhat difficult. I think the big thing is honestly going to be mostly tire wear and staying out of trouble. Cars tend to easily get loose here, so if they slap the outside, the car just kind of bounces across, and with that banking, it really shoots you into the inside wall. Like I said, you don't have those small accidents, and the drivers will likely see some yellows. And if we get all packed up like that, and drivers are still dealing with tires that are sort of worn and loose, and they haven't been able to change them because of the timing of it, then well, expect cautions to breed cautions.
And the fixed setups that they've had this season haven't always done favors for these drivers to combat those loose conditions. Every time we've had an onboard at a variety of different racetracks, these cars, even though they're the Gen 4 NASCAR Cup cars, which were around at the early 2000s, they look like they're dancing around the track like the 1987 Legends cars here on iRacing sometimes. that they can definitely get unstable and sometimes they wander around the racetrack, and that's not really what you want here at Dover. Now we have a massive field, about I think 25 cars here today, and you can see that that's about a third of the field has got onboard cameras for us, including a few drivers who race with headsets. William Schrindenhammer you see up there in the top left, Ryan Johnson and Justin Rideout. Randall Nichols driving the 69, Scott Crump, we rode on board with him for qualifying, and Jared Haynes down there. Colin Weatherholt, one of the top performers this season without a win, and Jacob Manning, who does have a win this season at Darlington. And I've got to be honest, Joe, that one caught me off guard a little bit, because Jacob Manning can be a little bit of a short run star sometimes, I feel. He really throws it all out there on the line towards the start of a race, and Darlington's a track where you have to be good in the long run, and he got it done that day. I would say in that regards, Dover's similar to Darlington, so maybe that's good news for Jacob Manning, who's on screen here, where you definitely want to take care of your car and be around at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison to make, just trying to stay out of the trouble that it can put you in. And yeah, the cars look very, very loose here. He's going to slide up and hit the wall here in practice. Better to get it out of your system here in practice, although if you are still doing that in the race and haven't really gotten rid of it, then you're going to be in real trouble. And Manning brings it down. Now that pit entry is also going to be tough. If we do manage to stay green and we have green flag stops, you really have to try and get that car down off the banking nice and settled and brake as late as you can, or else you're going to lose time. But at the same time, it's tough to do that here because of that really steep transition.
Dawn Corcoran, who we're riding on board with, always one of the easiest cars to find out there on the racetrack, because it looks like Richard Petty's old blue and red STP number 43 machine. He has really been performing stronger in the last few races. He doesn't have the results to show for it, I don't think, though. But he's definitely getting up there more. So, you know, if he can just put a full race together without any issues, it will be interesting to see what kind of finish he can bring it home with. So this is a warm-up going on right now. You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left to cook some popcorn. That normally takes about 2 minutes. You guys have time. And then we'll be getting ready to read the grid out for you and get ready for 173 laps of racing action here tonight at Dover.
Well, if our trend continues on the green flag percentage, then I think we're going to be looking at something like less than 17 laps under yellow. So that would be something in the realm of, I think, like 3 cautions throughout. So it could be possible if it lines up with the pit stops. It would be nice for the drivers, but you can't always bank on that, and that'll certainly make life interesting for them as we check on our driver with the most wins so far this season here, Daniel Eberhardt. With some of the races that he's missed, he's kind of playing catch up, but it looks like he's fast today with his qualifying starting out there on the front row. So watch out, because he could definitely be a threat.
Yeah, and he's won at two tracks this season that kind of remind me of Dover. He won at The Rock, he won at Bristol, and those 2 tracks certainly have some similarities, along with Dover Motor Speedway. Also racing a white paint scheme this week. I don't think I've seen this before. I think he's normally out there in a kind of a grey car. So different colours, maybe something for the new year here for Daniel Eberhardt. Well, checkered flag is flying on warm-up, and that means, as it adds a few seconds to switch the servers over, that we can read out our starting grid here for tonight's race at Dover Motor Speedway. And starting on your front row, it is going to be 2 of the biggest names of the season, Dylan Jones and Daniel Eberhardt. Colin Weatherholt starting in 3rd place behind them, ahead of Scott Crump. Michael Larch, a solid qualifying performance from him, starting from 5th place ahead of Trevor Williams in the number 1 car. Can he get P1? Jared Mogard, he was our winner earlier this season at Las Vegas. He starts from 7th ahead of Ryan Johnson, and Matt Molnar and Randall Nichols round out the top 10.
It's going to be Drew Ballesteros starting in 11th, with Justin Rideout in the 12th spot. Jordan Berube will be in 13th. Corcoran will start on the outside of that 7th row. Then it's Jeff Merck in 15th position, followed by Luke Smith in P16. Inside of the next row sees Lane Doyle and Dean Gagliano in 18th. And then we've got Seth Reed in 19th and John Lewis in 20th.
Starting in 21st place will be Jacob Mannins. A poor qualifying performance from him. We saw him struggling with that car being loose in the warm-up there. Jared Haynes will be starting 22nd ahead of William Schwindenhammer. Now, James Shane Wolf and Bo Tiffany did not turn laps in qualifying, and I'm not sure they're actually starting this race, so we might just have 23 cars here. But the cars are underway. Just one pace lap here at Dover Motor Speedway, even though it's only a 1-mile track, so they'll be going green flag racing here very shortly. And again, tonight's race being presented to you by Rogue Energy.
See one car already kind of hanging out on the apron there, maybe trying to shorten things up a little bit and save whatever fuel they can. But really the big talk, I think, is going to be those tires, managing them, saving them over the stint. This place has moderate usage, and the bottom line is the place to be. So if you get racing side by side, you're going to start eating them up quicker. You really want to get a single file quick as you can.
Ford Mustang pace car about to make a hard left turn down into pit road, and we normally say that it's a hard left turn. It certainly is tonight here at Dover. Dylan Jones on pole on the low line. Daniel Eberhardt starting up high. 2 white cars about to lead the 23-car field to green here at Dover Motor Speedway. Let's go racing. Caution out on the speedway already. Looks like something toward the back.
Ooh, Seth Reed had a big accident, and he's kind of wedged there. That is William Schwindenhammer, who was kind of positioning him up against the wall. I think Reed got turned a little bit and almost rolled over. I think it started between himself and Dean Gagliano and just kind of went from there.
And of course the downside, Dean Gagliano got loose off of turn 2. And then, oh, he did go upside down almost. We've definitely seen a new damage model come into effect on Seth Reed's car there. Now they've got to come into the pits and get repairs, but again, you don't want to take your first set of tyres right now.
Watching from on board, and looks like Schwindenhammer is going to get a face full of smoke, and it was really difficult to tell quite what was going on, but you were saying earlier about how the track self-cleans. In this situation, yeah, it probably would have been better if he had stayed up high because he was coming to it so late. By that stage, most of the cars would have been heading towards the bottom.
Yeah, it's easy. I was thinking the same thing, Joe, but it's easy for us to stay up here and criticize. You know, these are decisions being made at about 150 miles an hour down the back straight there, and the good thing is I didn't see any blown engines. I think they'll be able to keep going, and just the nature of this track, I don't think it's the only wreck we're going to see tonight, so they'll probably still be able to salvage a couple positions, but it's definitely going to make things tougher for them. So at the top end of the field, we saw Daniel Eberhardt pretty much filter right into second position at the start of this race. I almost wondered if he was going to attempt some kind of crossover move down the back straight, but looked like he just played it safe and settled in behind Dylan Jones.
Yeah, I was kind of watching him as well before that wreck happened to see what he wanted to do, and didn't see anything too aggressive. So Daniel probably knows this is going to be a long one. And he needs to try and think long-term, kind of let the race come to him, unless a really high percentage move emerges, you know, just kind of let things play out instead.
Now, a few cars came into the pits to top off with fuel. You want to go as long as you can on fuel, but I did notice Jacob Manning also got his right front fender pulled out, so he picked up a little bit of damage, but it shouldn't really be affecting him in the long run.
Well, glad to see that we've almost got everybody out there. Actually, yeah, we do have everybody because it's only Bo Tiffany that's in pit lane currently, and actually a lap down, so maybe had to have a connection problem and start from pit lane. Gagliano, in the meantime, looks like he's going to get the EOL for causing the accident on this one.
And you can only do that once, even at Bristol. They don't make exceptions for tighter racetracks. If you cause 2 incidents, you will be disqualified. So Dean Gagliano gonna be on his best behaviour for the next 169 laps here. You mentioned Bo Tiffany. He was one of those 2 drivers that didn't qualify and didn't take a green. So I wonder if we'll see him out there on the track or not.
Yeah, he's been sitting in his stall for about a minute, so he's definitely here now. Because you have to actually put your car out in pit lane. I'm not sure why he hasn't come out yet, because he's currently 2 laps down. Actually, that means that he has been out on track at some point. So I wonder if maybe he got caught up in the incident or what exactly happened here. This is strange.
Yeah, could always be suffering with some technical issues. The field is getting double file, and pace car lights are going off. If anyone watched one of these races early in the season, they'll know at the start of the season we were using the old Gen 4 restart rules where all of the leaders restarted up on the high groove and the lap down cars restarted down low, but that was causing complications and black flags and lengthy cautions, and now we're up to the modern day double file restart rules, which is potentially good news for Daniel Eberhardt if he wants to take a look at Dylan Jones for the lead here, but something tells me, Joe, he'll be happy to just filter in the second again for now.
Yeah, it'll depend on his start, most likely. Like I said, if he's probably thinking the big picture, so if he gets a good run, he might try and give it a go. But because the leader usually gets the better start here in iRacing by a good margin, I'm with you. He's going to jump down to the bottom as soon as there's an opening.
Well, let's try this again. We haven't gotten a full green flag lap in yet tonight, and that's nothing against the quality of a field. That is simply Miles and Munster doing Miles and Munster thins as Dylan Jones and Daniel Eberhardt once again lead them to the green, but it is Dylan Jones kept them waiting a long time, and there's trouble at the back again.
Ooh, I think Schwinenhammer might be involved again. No, it looks like he may have gotten through. Corcoran is the one facing backwards. So definitely got caught up in it. I'm trying to check and see if I can find. Yeah, I think actually he was the first one to get loose here. I think this was cold tires trying to get on the throttle.
Riding on board Corcoran, and yeah, it was wheel spin. The only thing I'll say in his defense is I think everyone was caught off a little bit. I thought Jones had gone or was getting ready to go, but it was a later restart. And, you know, that's Jones's choice. The leader has control over when to go, and I wonder if there was a bit of anticipation here. I don't know, that could just simply be wheel spin.
Noticed on that first replay, the 39 in the Mountain Dew car, Luke Smith, did a fantastic job keeping it from spinning all the way down into the wall. He clipped it a little bit, but it could have been so much worse. So he was really on top of things. Yeah, let's watch it from on board here, because, I mean, he likely is just not expecting this at all. It's going to come out of nowhere, and he's going to have to be all arms and elbows to try and save it.
Oh, that almost reminds me of Jimmy Johnson's qualifying save here all those years ago. For fans who haven't seen that, go on YouTube, preferably after this broadcast, and type up Jimmy Johnson Dover qualifying save. You've got to see it to believe it.
I was going to say, technically, if they're watching this, they are on YouTube already.
Yeah, I guess you could open the second tab. Just watch it when Joe is talking.
Exactly. Don't need to listen to me. Wow. Okay. So it went from bad to worse there. We didn't get to complete one lap. We didn't even get to start one lap that time before the yellow came out. And I said this is going to be a difficult one. I didn't think it would be quite this difficult.
No, but this isn't unheard of, you know, here at Dover. And obviously, I really hope we get some green flag racing in soon. But we've seen this before. We've seen wrecks in real-life NASCAR on the restart here. It's happened on iRacing, obviously, a bunch of times in official series races. This is a concrete surface. It doesn't have a whole lot of grip. There's a lot of banking, and it is tricky to get the rear end of a car to hook up on the opening lap and on the start of a race.
It definitely is. It might look silly, but these things are more difficult than you realize because you have to remember they, for the longest time, NASCAR was very focused on the tech being as low tech as possible. And the Gen 4 was definitely a part of that philosophy. Whereas now they're finally embracing a lot of things that you'll find in more modern cars and even in more modern race cars. But these things were simple, they're heavy, there's no driver aids, and it's down to each driver, their right foot in their hands, to try and both make them fast and keep them out of the wall. And if you ever hop into one of these, you'll understand what I'm talking about because there's all power, there's no grip, and it's basically just down to your skill.
So Sean Corcoran obviously is the driver who gets the EOL penalty and gets that first strike against his name. That first strike, but also second strike, and that if he causes another incident tonight, his race will be over. And so in that regard, Joe, this isn't going to last all night long because eventually the drivers will all run out of strikes.
Usually I talk about that sort of stuff in relation to attrition from wrecks and whatnot. Yeah, that you hopefully get fewer cautions at the end because of dwindling numbers of drivers. When it's because of DQs, then you've got a problem for sure.
Once again, a couple of drivers coming in to top up with fuel. And the reason they do this, Joe, is because we've seen so many green flag runs throughout the course of the season. Drivers have realized that having more fuel in their car means they can pit later in the pit cycle, and that makes a big difference. Even though they're losing a couple of seconds a lap during the green flag cycle when they're out there on old tires and the drivers who short pit are out there in new tires, it's nothing compared to the amount of time that they gain from having 10 lap newer tires throughout the course of the 50 lap green flag run that we're going to see tonight. So that's why you see drivers at the back coming in, topping off with fuel. If we do get some green flag racing, which hopefully we should soon, it will help them out in the long run.
Yeah, it opens up the strategy for them essentially. So it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're in the back on an oval race, you get a caution, just come in, take some fuel, top off.
Once again, Eberhardt really trying to anticipate the start here, but Jones bringing them down slowly, and Eberhardt is actually going to have his nose in front across the line, which I think is legal for the most part, but we'll see. Eberhardt putting a fight up against Jones through turns 1 and 2, and is actually going to have the lead coming out of turn 2 here.
That's what I was saying. If he gets a good run for some reason, and he did, he's going to try and take advantage of it. So now Dylan Jones has to ask himself, do I try to fight back, or do I just kind of ride here for a while, especially if he can keep up with him? If he can't keep up with him, that's going to be more concerning, but that's still a big what if, is we're finally getting some racing going.
Yeah, we finally got one green flag lap in. So I also think, Joe, it begs the question for Dylan Jones of if he gets a lead again and leads the field back to green, does he do that same thing again? Because if a leader goes late in the restart zone, the green flag man runs the race, and that's a risky run, is that Eberhardt wins the race to the green flag.
Exactly. But, I mean, all that matters is you lead the last lap. So if the car feels okay in the dirty air and you feel like you've got the pace to challenge him, it's okay to just kind of sit and ride behind him for a while. But we probably won't know that more until we get to later in the race. I think it will kind of hinge on that dirty air, because if he starts scrubbing the tires off, then yes, he will lose pace in comparison, and he needs to pass.
So all of these cautions have been good news for Bo Tiffany. Whatever issue he did have, he has gotten out there, but he's now 5 laps down. Jared Haynes, meanwhile, is not out there on the racetrack, so he might be our first actual retirement. We're riding on board Colin Weatherholt, again a strong performer so far this season, but no W's to his name. Sitting there here, though right now, solid in 3rd position.
It's looking good currently. And, we're getting a black flag for one of the cars for a connection issue. I didn't quite make out who it was, though. We'll see if we can get that. Jared Haynes, actually.
Oh, and that's the car that we said was a lap down, a couple of laps down, so maybe that's what's going on with him, is connections of... Oh, and caution on the speedway!
Jacob Manning. Oh, and I see a couple others following in. Looks like Schwinenhammer again, and Bo Tiffany, who is also many laps down. So not sure if it started with them. I think that actually was from Tiffany checking up and Schwinenhammer not realizing what was going on, but it looks like it begins with Manning.
Yeah, and we've seen Manning. I saw the same thing with Tiffany. He was checking up when the caution came out and got ran over from Schwindenhammer behind, but I think those two got away with it. We'll see what happened to Manning here first. Again, he qualified a lot further down the... That's not... He came up, but I think he expected... And there's where those two ran into each other, but they got away with it. Manning came up, but I think he anticipated that green car being closer to the wall.
And I'm trying to watch and see. Let's see if John Lewis drifts down, because I think he does drift down a little bit early as well. So this is kind of them meeting in the middle. Yeah, he's drifting down just very slightly, because if you watch the line that his right-hand tire is on, he starts to leave it as he gets closer to the corner.
Get an external view for the fans to have their say in who they believe is to blame for this incident, and then we'll let you know who the admins say was to blame for the incident. But Manning gets a nice run there, down on the inside. I mean, the admin of a series normally pick a driver to blame, but I've got to say, to me, that's a racing incident.
Agreed. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I said, they met in the middle, and that's why I was trying to point out that that John looked like he was drifting down at the same time that Jacob was drifting up. So we'll see what they decide on this one. In the meantime, Manning has to take some pretty big repairs because he got hooked hard into the wall. And is this caution number 3, I think we've got now?
Yep, this is the third caution.
So we are on lap 19. That's not a good sign, but we did hear 2 to go. Oh, they're giving it to John Lewis. Okay, so they thought maybe he moved a bit more or something, and are giving him the EOL. The other thing is we've already, I mean, 19 laps in, we've got 2 cars that are multiple laps down. At this stage between Manning and Tiffany, and Tiffany's getting back out on track. But also a lot of them that are damaged. Remember, they don't have that spare car. And with this being such a fast circuit, you kind of need the car to be in good condition just so that you can keep turning fast laps, not even thinking about the handling, but just so that it's nice and smooth through the air.
For anyone wondering if time would be a concern during this race, that's not the case. It's a 3-hour time limit. And the nice thing about these shorter tracks here on iRacing and in the real world is that the cautions are shorter, because of course each caution takes about 4 or 5 laps. And there we go, lap 19 of 173. Right now it's been Eberhardt and Jones up controlling that first front row all night long as the pace car lights go off. Now, what's Eberhardt going to do here on the restart? Is he going to do the same thing as Jones, where Jones has been going late, or is he going to go early?
I'd say go a little bit earlier on this one. Try and buck the trend, because everybody's probably gotten a little bit used to that late start at this point. Just kind of keep them guessing, keep them on their toes. You always have to try and throw. It's like almost playing rock, paper, scissors. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Someone's going to guess eventually.
I lost my last game of rock, paper, scissors, so that's a sour memory for me. Well, here's the thing, right? Everyone starts with rock, so I guessed paper, and I guess my opponent knew that I would do that because he had scissors.
Apparently, there's all kinds of psychology to how to play it. It's not a skill per se, but yeah, I've heard that there's ways to be better, quote unquote, at playing rock, paper, scissors. But we'll see if he's better at playing it here today on the restart.
Eberhardt has control of the field. He could go whenever he wants, and now he's going to go. See, there we go. Early restart, and as a result, he's already got a few car lengths. And Jones is going to lose second.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, Weatherholt was paying attention, and he got the jump on him. He's got the inside. The 3 is hanging on at the least. Look at how much they slide off that turn 2 onto the backstretch.
Remember, it was the high lane that gave Eberhardt the lead, so the high lane can work, and Jones is trying to use momentum to make it work. But let's see, it really is nip and tuck between them right now. Our race note said the low line was the place to be. Well, it is if you're single file, but it looks like side by side, the high lane gets it done for Dylan Jones.
Well, what it is, as we get another yellow. Trying to see, looks like John Lewis for the second time. He better hope that he didn't cause that one, or else he's out today already.
He didn't. Seth Reed gets him from behind. We're watching the replay. Talking about being out, Jacob Amanin has retired from the race, so down to 21 cars. I think we'll still have 21 cars here. Looks like John Lewis can still drive it.
Yeah, so here's Seth Reed coming up behind him. He had a better run. He was trying to use it. Thought maybe he'd get a clearing, and I don't think the 37 drifted up as much as he hoped. Seems like predicting where the 37 is going to be has been kind of the bugbear of all the other cars around him.
Aren't green race cars bad luck? Oh,
That's
a lot of cars coming into the pits, Joe, and the reason is because they can make it to the end on 2 stops from here. We're at lap 20. And 50 laps gets you to lap 70 and lap 120. So that's why we're seeing all these cars come in. They can make it to the end on 2 more stops.
So what you're saying, I think, is because there's so many yellows, they're trying to work the race backwards, get the track position.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can take tires here if they only plan on pitting 2 more times. No, none of them are doing that. This is smart, actually. So they're getting enough fuel to make it to the end on 2 more stops, but they're saving an extra set of tires in case there's a late caution with 20 laps to go or so. I like this call.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the way to go. They haven't been abusing them. Still got plenty left. Try and stretch these out. Also worth noting, we've had some drivers that, despite very few laps of racing, relatively, we've had some big movers. Matt Molnar is up 5. He's in 4th. Some of that's been helped by the pit stops we've had. And Schwendenhammer, in spite of being involved in multiple wrecks, is up 11 positions into 12th right now.
I think that would be a commitment cone violation in real life, what Daniel Eberhardt just did there, but I think he'll get away with it on iRacing, going over that orange box. Now, Eberhardt has done this throughout the season. He's made a couple of calls that I've questioned a little bit, and sometimes he's been smarter than me, and I think there was one time at Richmond where he wasn't, and this strategy backfired against him. But his philosophy, Joe, always seems to be to go as long as he can on fuel. There's 2 things I like about this. First off, these drivers who haven't pit yet, they could make it to the end on 2 stops as well. We've had so many caution laps. I don't think it's impossible that they could stretch it out to getting close to lap 70, before they have to come in for their first stop. And the other problem is, with all of the wrecks we've seen at the backside of the field today, that's a danger that all of those drivers who just pit have put themselves in.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't seem to really want to be in the mid-pack here today because there's been a lot of trouble in there. They do look pretty tricky to try and drive these cars around this place. Try and get yourself some space out on the track and focus on your own race. This is one of those circuits where you're racing the track more than you are racing each other.
William Schrindenhammer restart in 12th. Now, I've seen people do this in real life, and I do it sometimes when I race at Dover here on iRacing, is I never like restarting on the outside of this track. Because then if there's a big checkup, you got nowhere to go but forward. At least on the low line, you can go to the apron and try and squeak by it. And there are some people or in real life, and I know I've done it on iRacing, sometimes I'll wait in the pits and let another car go by me if I know it means I get to start on the inside line. So we'll see, though. Maybe that high line will work out well for Schrindenhammer here.
You can't always have the ability to try and make those situations for yourself, unfortunately, especially if you're the leaders. Because this, as soon as you try to get tricky with that, you can lose multiple positions and still wind up on the outside. I think if you're at the back, that's a very clever move, actually.
The problem is when you get that far back, it's kind of hard to do the math. It's like, am I 5th or 6th is easier to tell sometimes than am I 12th or 13th. All right, here we go. Eberhard drones once again. Going to be restarting. Eberhard, the leader on the inside. Drones restarting second. Let's see what Scott Crump can do in third place if Eberhard goes early.
Well, looks like it's a pretty good start for Daniel. And for Jones, he's already got Crump underneath him, but we saw he can make the pass on the high side. And this time, I almost looks like they're not interested in racing one another because the 11 kind of backed out of it.
Yep, it's a single file for the first 4 positions or so. I was going to say they were side by side for 5th, but you can see they've already got that sorted out with Michael Larch ahead of Ryan Johnson. Still a little bit of battling going on back in the field. Weberholt still in 12th position.
Now, you were talking a little bit earlier about the bottom line being the place to be. We need to clarify on that. It's that the bottom line will save tires better. If anything, this is definitely a good track for multi-groove. It's got so much banking that you can kind of ride a couple different places and still be quick. It's more about, I think, just wanting to make sure that you're not using those tires up too much. And even right here, you can see a couple drivers a lane up. There's one that's way up there. And Justin Rideout is, in the meantime, right at the bottom.
Down in pit road right now is John Lewis. I said I thought he got away without too much damage from that previous wreck. That's not the case. You can see the green car sitting in his pit stall there as Justin Rideout went by. NASCAR drivers tend to call this a roller coaster, and it's not too hard to see why. You're going up the hill, then there's cars landing over a bump. Here you go over a bump down the hill. Now you sit in the corner that goes on and on and on forever. When's it going to end? Well, here's where it ends, and you've got to make sure that you're not pointing up towards the wall by the time you're wide open on the gas again.
I feel like this is an overlooked track when it comes to all the places that NASCAR visits. Like I said, there's not much like it these days, and it definitely kind of holds its own idiosyncrasies that you really have to stay on top of. Justin's doing a pretty good job just riding to the back now that we're getting some laps down. And honestly, from what I can see up and down through the order, most everybody is kind of just settling in at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, they're all seeing the same thing we are, you know, that this race has started with a lot of yellow fever, probably more cautions in the opening 30 laps than we've had at any race this season, although I do recall Bristol having its fair share of cautions. Oh, is Molnar going to try and make a move up high here? Or
he's looking like he's interested, and like you said, you can carry that momentum. Ooh, that's quite an aggressive block for this early on. Crump likes his track position and doesn't want to give it up.
yeah, that could have gone very badly, very quickly. He almost hooked him in the right rear fender, but these are two strong drivers, and right now they're proving that they're very spatially aware of what's going on around them.
I'm glad that he backed out of that. We didn't need another yellow that quickly. In regards to earlier us asking whether or not Dylan Jones can keep up with Eberhard, it's looking like that's a yes right now. He's been really glued to the rear bumper of the 90 up to this point as we ride on board with them. But it's early in the stint. We've only had, maybe about 8 or 9 green flag laps here. It's going to be, if we get, up to lap 30 or 40, is he still right on the back of them?
So one driver we haven't seen a whole lot of this season, I think he's only done one race, maybe 2, is a driver we should keep an eye out on, and that's Jeff Merck in 9th position. And the reason is, he is the first driver right now of cars that have been in the pits this race. He didn't come in under the last caution, that's why he's halfway up the field. But let's see if we do go green through the first round of stops, if this could help him.
Yeah, most everybody was just topping up on fuel. Although I need to check and see if Luke Smith either took repairs or if he actually took tires because he had a 15-second stop on his last visit in, which is very interesting. If he did elect to take tires, that seems a bit early to me. Blowing around, changing direction, if it's changing speed a lot, that's when it really causes problems, especially on these cars with such high speeds, as that was a big moment in the background. I think that was Ryan Johnson in the 38 who had to save it.
Now, one concern for our leaders is the fact that since we do have a few drivers who have been involved in incidents today, not running up to full speed, they could potentially become lap traffic here before too long. Uh, the tail end of the field right now running about 10 seconds down, and it's a 24-second lap, so not an immediate concern, but certainly if we stay green, it could be a concern. One thing that's a concern for Eberhardt right now is Dylan Jones, our pole sitter, coming back on the high side, and it looks like Eberhardt might not put up too much of a fight. And sure enough, Jones goes by him.
Yeah, that was definitely him waving
Oh,
on
trouble!
through. Ooh.
That's Johnson. That's Ryan Johnson in 38 and the 32, hard into the inside wall. Some more contact, but those were the two who got the worst of it. 32's Lane Doyle.
And that came from Johnson, I think, getting a little bit of help, although he was already loose at the time of the contact. We'll see it here on the replay. I had mentioned he had a moment a bit ago, and I was keeping an eye on him. The car did look like it was getting unsteady, and it was starting to go around. Now, that was strange. I don't know if there was maybe some net code involved in that or to initially getting him starting to turn. Let's watch from on board and see.
Yeah, I think Molnar's going to be getting the blame for this. It looks like he thought they were clear and they weren't.
Yeah, it's very strange how that car starts to spin, though, because it wasn't like it gradually worked its way into the spin. Watch it here. It just suddenly starts going. And that, I think there's some initial net code that starts that spin, and then they actually do hit the second time.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
that's a little suspect to me.
It's weird that a tap on the right rear fender caused it to spin the way it did. But then, I know Lane Doyle in that 32 car. I think that's him about the get hit there. That he got a big piece of it. But otherwise, that's a pretty nasty hit from that white and black car up high. But otherwise, I think those were the big hits there. By the way, a lot of cars came into the pits, and as a result, you see Colin Weatherholt is up to 5th, but our front two continue to stay out.
Lane Doyle decided to stay out initially, and I was kind of surprised at that because of what we saw in the replay. Now he's deciding it's probably better to go get some repairs on this thing because, yeah, it's only Jones and Eberhardt that are still out there without fresh, well, I guess just fresh fuel, if anything. Those who pitted in, looks like they did take tires this time because I see Luke Smith. It looks like, I think Corcoran took tires. Trevor Williams, Berube.
Yeah, mathematically that makes sense. You're about 40, 50 laps into the race. You've got 2 more sets of tyres, so take another set around lap 100, take another set around lap 150, and you'll have fairly fresh tyres at the end of a race. We were talking about Jeff Merck, how he was the highest running driver yet to pit, and look where he is now, 3rd place.
There you go. But he's still on those same tires. That's just fuel that he's taken. Let's remember that. It's Scott Crump that is the highest up on fresh tires right now in the number 11. So he's going to be starting in 7th place, it looks like. He's going to be decently close to the front, and everybody's going to be watching him with keen eyes, because if he makes quick progress, then that tells you, like you said earlier, holding on to a set and getting a late yellow could mean the difference between winning and just getting a so-so finish today.
That's a good doggy in the background. That looks like it's gone to sleep on the couch. I think that's a Labrador.
Does look like it, yeah. Nice comfy spot for him. But I think it looks like we're going double up once again here, and we'll We get restarted once again. Only 2 cars still hanging out there. And you mentioned Daniel kind of doing this before, where he's just going to hold out as long as he can, and then he'll come in and get his service once the car is out of fuel.
Well, we've been told before the race that the pit window was about 50 to 55 laps, but we've had, I've
That's
lost
a
count.
green, though.
Yeah, I've lost count on how many cautions, 5 to 6. If that's about 20 laps of cautions, that's going to add you about another 10, 20 laps of fuel to that. So they can probably make it the lap 60, or if they can make it the lap 70, again, that could be smart in that they might be able to get to the end on one more stop.
I'm counting around 26 laps of green, or at least looked like competitive times or close to it. So, he's probably going to need to pit in soon. But the way the yellows have been going, statistically, it looks like he's likely to get another soon.
We'll see what Jeff Merck can do here. P3 keeps going. Good restarts, and Dylan Jones spun his tyres.
That was Eberhard, yeah.
Oh, Eberhard, my apologies, yep.
Big time. He's very lucky that everybody was heads up, but he backed up the pack, and Jones gets to run away. He kind of needs that with cars that are on fresh tires right now.
Yeah, it's a shame for Eberhard and for Merck that they weren't able to get a good restart here, because they could have broken away in second place. As a result, Dylan Jones kind of has a nice little gap ahead of the rest of the field right now. Eberhard second, Weatherholt third, and Michael Larch has broken through into fourth.
Yeah, I mean, they're eating them alive. Honestly, I think tires are definitely the way to go. Larch is probably going to start reeling in those leaders and pulling away. But if we get that yellow, then it's going to swing back in favor of those drivers that still need to come in and stop. And Merck is pitting in.
Yeah, Merck and Lane Doyle in the pits. He must have picked up some kind of damage or something. I can't imagine why this is.
I don't see any black flags, so I'm with you. I'm not sure what is going on. Battle for third, though, it looks like. For fourth. That's Weatherholt being overtaken by Smith.
I'll tell you, Luke Smith has quietly worked his way up into the top 10 in points. I don't recall calling his name out a whole lot of times this season, but look at Michael Larch blast by Eberhard on those new tires.
New tires can make you feel like a superhero. We know how fast Daniel is, so for this, he's got to savor the moment, but also be kind to those tires, because yes, he can use them up here and fly by people, but you got to keep thinking about that big picture. Hold on to them, make them last as long as you can, even though you've got the pace over others currently.
Randall Nichols not far off of giving Daniel Eberhard one up the back as they came off of turn 4, but is able to get underneath him. Scott Crump is the next driver in line there, and he's going to go by Eberhard. Eberhard dropping down to 6th and continues to fall on those old tires.
54 down to the inside, and here we go on board with Dylan Jones. Larch, he knows he's got the grip. He's just going to take him off the corner. That's honestly probably the smart thing to do. Take the safest, highest percentage pass you can.
And Larch, without a win so far this season, now leads here at Dover ahead of Luke Smith, who also doesn't have a win this season. Yeah, who knows? We could be getting our 7th win of the season tonight.
Behind them, Jones went 3 wide, and we got a wreck. That's Mogard.
And one more final hit there of the 37, and that's going to do it for that car. And Mogard, they're both out, I would imagine.
Oh, goodness. In fact, I think Mogard was already done. Watch that car go up into the wall out of turn 4, so you're going to see it next time around. He gets hooked massively, and the engine blows immediately as soon as it smashes into the safer barrier here on the outside. This is the worst case scenario.
So that's Trevor Williams in the 1, has gone by Eberhard, and Eberhard's going to get the penalty for that. Wow, and that's Jordan Berube in the 22, and the 37 of John Lewis was the one who comes in late there. So Eberhard, one strike for the driver who's led the championship for the majority of the season.
That's an interesting call because it didn't look like he was moving down on him to hook him, but it's hard to tell from that onboard. Watch from behind them. This will give us a good view. Or no, excuse me. This is from onboard the wreck, and suddenly wall.
He's against the bottom line. I don't see how you can put that on Mogard and then
Yeah, you're right.
last hit, very violent there, it turns him upside down.
Yeah, I'm watching on my screen, and yeah, you're right. He kind of comes down late in the corner, which he should have known he needed to give him a little bit more space there as he was coming through. I mean, he knew he was a slower car on those tires. It's just you're trying to gauge how much slower at this case because you've been so used to everybody on the same rubber as you up to this point. And Daniel, no doubt, taking his service because, I mean, he might as well at this stage. He's going to be sent to the back as it is. Although, did he get damaged? Because he's now been in there for close to 30 seconds.
Yeah, it looks like he does. Look at the right rear there. That's all bent in, yeah. A few damaged cars in the pits from that one.
So he didn't get away scot clean, unfortunately. I think he got hit a little bit by Scott Corcoran in it, and then maybe had something from earlier on potentially as well. Wonder if maybe someone banged into him while he was on those older tires, and that caused that little bit of rear damage. But he was hit on the left-hand side, so I'm guessing that's what he was working on to make sure it was in a good spot. So looks like did everybody? No. So highest driver to have pitted on this last one is going to be Dylan Jones, and Eberhard. Well, I guess the good news for him, the EOL, honestly, again, this is why it was smart for him to pit here. He's going to lose one spot, it looks like, to Berube.
Yeah, of course, EOLs, I mean, you have to restart behind the lapped cars as well, so Eberhard will have a little bit of work to do on the restart here. You also saw Ryan Johnson in the pits. Mogard has retired. Daniel Eberhard was assessed blame for that incident. You're talking about slowly but surely attrition would start the cut-out field down, Joe, and now I'm showing 15 cars on the lead lap. Lucky dogs are a thin, so the likes of Dean Gagliano and Bo Tiffany could get back up there. In fact, wasn't Bo Tiffany a few laps down early on? He was the one who started from the pits. So he's slowly getting back into this then.
I think the first initial few helped out, but now that we've got more cars that are going laps down, it's going to be rougher to try and make up those spots back. But yeah, Bo Tiffany's doing a really good job of getting back into it and has had a little rub of the green. But I think we're seeing only 17 cars still running. John Lewis is a maybe. They're still working on the car, and he's 18 laps down at this stage.
And pace car lights are off. And look at the race order there on the left-hand side of your screen. I want to be careful with what I say here. I think in the top 13, Scott Crump is the only driver who has won a race this season.
Interesting. And Crump's actually starting fourth, I think, is he? Yeah, I think the 11 is starting fourth. So top three are all non-winners right now. And what's amusing about this, because I was just thinking about how we were having the discussion before we came live, that it's been Eberhard and Jones are usually the most likely winners most weeks. And yet they're now both towards the back for differing reasons. So is this going to shake things up a bit?
Yeah, throw Crump in there, kind of a bronze medalist when it comes to most likely drivers to take a win. So these drivers aren't completely out of the woods yet. Crump could still get it done, but let's see what happens. New front row as we go back to racing. All cars sliding over the place, but going in the right direction.
Trevor Williams went nowhere, and he's fallen back to seventh, but at least the car is single file, and he can kind of slot into line. Once the car gets going and up to speed, it's the low gears that are always the tricky ones trying to get it started. As we got a battle for the lead. Look at Nichols.
He is trying to make a move down low here, but we've seen that's been a little bit trickier to do tonight. But he's still going to give it his best shot as Crump has moved up into third position.
Yeah, I think even though the higher might chew up the tires a little more, it seems like the low line is not good for trying to make those passes because they're pinching you down. If you can keep them cranking the wheel, that's going to make the car looser off the corner. And look at this, the 11's going to try and take
Oh!
advantage.
3 wide. Nichols saves it, but drops back to third, and now Crump is looking for the lead.
Wow. So you said Crump is kind of the third most likely. Well, he's kind of proven that true here if he can make this pass. But last time it looked like it was tough to try and go underneath. Wow, he makes it look easy. Look at that.
Closes the door just on Michael Larch. Michael Larch says not so fast and goes back down low into turns 1 and 2. Michael Larch being a strong performer so far this season, sits 8th in the points, but Scott Crump since 2nd.
Yeah, again, I feel like if you want to make a pass, get up on that high side because you're going to be in a heap of trouble trying to crank the wheel off the corner. Ooh, and brushing the wall. Crump, unfortunately, just gets a little bit too brave off the turn. That will cost him the lead again.
So Larch leading ahead of Crump and Nichols. And let's give a shout out to Drew Ballesteros. We haven't mentioned him at all tonight, and not a whole lot this season. He sits down 24th in the points, but right now having a solid race.
So here's where things kind of switch around a little bit. These drivers up at the front have the track position, but it is Dylan Jones that has the tires. Now, I don't think he has quite the same advantage that the other drivers had before, but look, he's already up into 7th, so he's charging.
Yeah, and he's bringing Eberhardt with him. So this is why Jones and Eberhardt like this strategy of going as long as they can before they have to pit, because when we do get a long green flag run in the middle of a stint where we're not fighting pit stops, they have fresher tyres throughout the most of the stint. And now Dylan Jones and Eberhardt making up that track position. Jones up to 6th. I think Eberhardt will soon be looking at cork around for 7th.
For some reason, Gagliano's coming to the pits. Oh, and it looks like he's coming back out. So he had more repairs. The car, I guess, wasn't handling to his liking. I thought we were down to 16, but it's going to be back up to 17 once again. So Dylan Jones trying to see if he can size up Luke Smith here, but then decides against it. Now, yeah, I was going to say, he was kind of going to the bottom, and I think he knows the top is the place to be.
Oh, they're very close, so close quarters coming out of turn 4, and Jones actually getting in the wall. That's going to slow him up, and that's going to allow Eberhardt by, maybe.
Oh, that's bad news, because Eberhardt's going to be his main rival. Passing these cars won't concern him as much as making sure he stays ahead of the 90, because they're on pretty much the same strategy.
Yeah, now they both get by the 39 of Smith there, who's going to try and shut the door ahead of Corcoran, and he's going to be able to do that. So Sean remains in 8th place. We've got a battle for 3rd going on up here. This is Ballesteros moving up into P3. Nice night going for him. And keep an eye on the 2 leaders as well. Scott Crump pressuring the leader.
Let's see if Crump can kind of recover from this little hiccup there on the front stretch and get that spot back. Because look, yeah, he's already thinking about going to the inside. Let's see if he can hold on to it here as the 2's going to hold that outside line and force him to stay pinched to the bottom. And once again, he can't get the speed off the corner.
So Larch remains in 1st place of the 15 cars still on the lead lap. If another caution did come out, Bo Tiffany would get another one of his laps back. Here goes Scott Crump, a nice run coming out of turn 4, looking for the lead underneath Michael Larch in turns 1 and 2. Meanwhile, behind him, Eberhardt is now up to 4th, but Scott Crump has a nose out. Can he complete this move in turns 3 and 4?
You could see how much the yaw was coming off of that corner for the 11. He's trying to be gentle with it, but it's so tough. You have to be just on a knife's edge there. Again, the car wanting to slide out on him, and it's preventing him from getting the run.
Yeah, and Michael Larch pulls ahead a little bit. I thought Crump had it pulled off a lap ago. He really had a nice run down the back straight, but then Larch picked it up, used that high line to his advantage, and now he's back in the lead. Here comes Eberhardt. He's going to take 3rd place away from Ballesteros, and Ballesteros going to drop back a little bit, try and find a hole in 5th place.
Yeah, this is where the tables have turned on all of them, unfortunately, and just picking and choosing where he wants to place that number 90. I mean, with that fresh rubber, it's and the high side on the track. He can basically just place it wherever he wants to go, and he breezes past.
And he brings Jones with him up into second. And is Scott Crump gonna be able to pull this off up high now? He's been able to find his way onto the high side of Michael Archer. It does seem to be the desired passing lane. And so now there you go, our three most winningest drivers of the season, despite all the chaos and carnage and multiple strategies, as they hit 100 laps left to go, are running 1, 2, 3.
Cream seems to always rise to the top. Not completely done here, passing passing Larch. Now he's clear of him, and he cuts down. So back to the racing line, and Larch still has Ballesteros and Nichols behind him, so he's not completely out of the woods.
Justin Rideout is in the pit, so I was wondering why he was showing a lap down, because he'd only been about 10 seconds back of leader, so naturally he's lead. Oh, he's just done a full fuel stint. He pitted under caution around lap 20, so he's our first to kick off a second round of stops, I suppose.
This is bad news for him, though, because there's that high chance of a caution, and he's going to get trapped not just one lap down, but two. Bo Tiffany is already past him.
Oh, Corcoran! Big slide coming off of turn 4. Saves it. Nice
Seeing that a lot today. But very, very good save there for the 43. So we're going to check in on Nichols in the meantime, sitting in 5th position. He's got Michael Larch just behind him. Had a brief foray up at the front, Randy, but now just kind of settling here back into the top 5. Also, we lost Dean Gagliano, so whatever damage he was trying to repair, he wasn't happy with it. He parked it for good.
Well, we started with 24 cars, and this was a very ugly race. We've weaned it down to 16 cars, and now it's much cleaner. But you know what, Joe? We can't complain. Participation is always great to see in league races here on iRacing. And, you know, normally this series puts on great clean races for us. Tonight, I think, has just been an exception due to the nature of how tricky Dover Motor Speedway is. But it's nice that this series seems to be growing. The fields are bigger. You know, normally when you're over halfway through the season, the drivers who are far back in points know they're not fighting for the championship might stop showing up. That's not the case, though. In this series, we're still having great fields show up.
Absolutely are, and yeah, I'd love to see that, the dedication. They're racers and they want to race, so they're sticking with it as best they can. And Ballesteros is sticking to the back of Crump, has been kind of hassling him here, trying to take that 3rd place away, but doesn't seem like he can get the speed he wants. That was a good shot off the corner. It does look like he's trying to ride a little bit high. Yeah, watch him cut down here on the exit. So he's trying to dime it off to get himself enough of a run that he can get the overlap through the corner.
Trying to stay out of harm's way, but back out on the racetrack is John Lewis in that green 37 car. And I don't know how he's still running. The whole front end ripped off of that car when he T-boned Mogard and sent him upside down.
Well, a lot of duct tape, I suppose, eventually getting it put back together. 38 laps down, so he's just hoping to basically vulture up some spots of the other drivers that have wrecked out. Molnar, Doyle, Merck, those are all drivers that are gone that he should easily go by here within a couple laps, honestly.
Yeah, within a few minutes, he'll be moved up from 22nd to 17th place, and that's, you know, a big difference. He's just got to try and stay out of the way of cars still racing for the big positions. Oh, whoa! He hit the wall.
He did. I think it was a light brush, though. The better thing is that the car is still pointing the right way and moving, but he's now gone from attack to defense is behind him. Did Nichols actually just bump off the wall himself?
It's a possibility. I didn't quite catch it, but I wouldn't say it has. I think that all of these drivers have been in the wall at some point tonight.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty common thread for many people. And he caught up briefly because of that little slide out of Drew, but already Drew is regrouped and is catching back up to Scott. So I think that was just a minor setback for the 54.
So I've been trying to work out why Seth Reed and Colin Weatherholt, well, Seth Reed was in a big wreck early on, but particularly Colin Weatherholt, why is he so far back? And Weatherholt's actually in the pits now. The reason is he's been 60 laps at C-pit. Seth Reed is coming in now. And what's significant about that, remember, is when they pitted under lap 20, there hadn't really been any green flag racing, so they didn't take tyres. So for the first time this race, Colin Weatherholt has taken a new set of tyres.
With less than 100 to go, so he's saving himself an ace up the sleeve, and as long as he can stay on the lead lap, that should pay big dividends. But we've seen, let's see, Weatherholt back out. Yeah, staying on the lead lap is going to be tricky with this strategy because he's now 2 laps down.
Yeah, and Eberhardt and Jones still have a long way to go before they make their pit stop. They're about halfway through their fuel run right now, around lap 30. But those are pretty much 30 green flag laps. So they've probably got somewhere between another 20 to 30 laps before they come in. Trevor Williams has caught Sean Corcoran here. The number 8 behind him is the lap car of Justin Rideout. But he's going to unlap himself, of course, because he was in the pits not too long ago and has much fresher tyres.
Yeah, and this offset stop might wind up helping them. It all depends on where the yellows will fall. But he's going to have to really hope and pray that they don't come out for a while, that the yellow laundry stays put away because he needs to make up those laps. And even just getting up to Schwindenhammer in front of him, he's a lap down from the next car.
This is what we see in the real world sometimes in Dover as well. This can be a very exciting track when there's a bit of carnage. We've seen cars go upside down here tonight. We've seen it happen in real life. But at the same time, things can get quite strung out in the long run. And there can be not many cars left fighting on the lead lap. Due to the nature of the nature of how short this track is. It's only 20 seconds long, and also, like you say, that pit road here is so slow, 35 miles an hour, that pitting can cost you a long time and puts you a couple laps down. So an ill-timed caution, it can be hard to make those 2 laps back.
Do you think that those that have the most laps left in this stint probably in the best position right now? So that'll be Eberhardt, Jones, or Johnson, and Berube. It looks like Bo Tiffany as well, but he's, like we said, he's still multiple laps down. But yeah, I think trying to extend this as far as they can go has definitely been the call, just to try and hold out until we get a caution to try and take a pit stop, because I don't see these green flag stops working unless it goes green for the rest of the race. And I would not place money on that one.
No, but of course, one thing that the drivers who are 2 laps down can do is use fresh tyres to go about 1.5 seconds a lap quicker than the leaders right now. And if they can unlap themselves one time and put themselves only 1 lap down, then that definitely puts them back in the race if a bad time caution does come out. So, who's the closest to unlapping himself? It is Colin Weatherholt. He's just worked his way by Drew Ballesteros, so he's got about probably only about 4 or 5 laps before he's able to get by Eberhardt and put himself back just 1 lap down. Currently, we're watching Michael Larcher in 6th place ahead of Luke Smith 7th and Trevor Williams 8th, not too far behind.
Down into the corners, like you were describing, into the roller coaster. I feel like that's part of also what makes this one of the tougher ovals to drive, is the fact that the car is being unsettled quite a bit by the change in elevation going down and then back up. And you don't get that a lot on most ovals. I mean, we call it going up the hill, but usually you don't have such a drastic rise and drop. Also, can we give credit to Luke Smith for this helmet design, the watermelon?
Yeah, certainly a unique helmet there, but there we go, getting the sunlight not quite hitting at the right angle. Clouds go away.
Just,
it's
yeah.
a red visor too.
Well, yeah, because those are the seeds. You can see even on, yeah, very clever. I do like what
The-
he's done here.
These seeds are dangerous and inconvenient, but I do like watermelons.
Oh, and whew, that was a big dive underneath in the meantime by Trevor.
That's
That
pole
is,
position as well. At first, I thought that the way that car... Oh, Trevor gets loose, though.
and right back he goes. Maybe. And back to the 39 is through. So this is certainly gotten exciting in a hurry between the pair of them. That's kind of why I think, man, you can see in the background too. That was Ryan Johnson once again getting very, very loose. I just don't think, unless you're forced to, which these drivers were that had to come in and pit, don't pit on a green flag lap because the chances are so high that we're going to get a yellow, because even if nobody is around one another, it's so tough on this slippery, slippery track to keep it pointed forward.
Weatherholt puts himself back to just being one lap down as he's able to unlap himself from Daniel Eberhardt one time with those fresher tyres. Sean Corcoran has just came into the pits, so we're getting more cars come down pit road now. Swindenhammer's been in, Randall Nichols has been in. Oh, here's another cool helmet. Ryan Johnson.
Yes, that's Venom, I believe, that he's got on there. So yeah, that is very cool stuff there. Although kind of freaky from the front.
Looking at who else will be in the pit soon. Scott Crump,
Crump,
Drew
yeah.
Ballesteros, Michael Lark, Trevor Williams and Luke Smith are all about to come in. Eberhardt and Jones have about 15 more laps.
In fact, Larch is coming in now. I just heard him tell a driver to try and stay high. He's trying to keep it off of the banking, and he is going to be able to. But that's a good example of what I was talking about, of how tough it is to get these cars into the pits under green.
And let's not forget that temporarily it's going to look like these drivers have lost out. That you know, the drivers who came in about 20 laps ago, such as Weatherholt, are going to be far ahead of them. It's going to look like the undercut worked. But they have another 50 or 40 laps where they're going to have fresher tyres, and that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, it swings right back for them. And you can see Drew heading back out pretty quickly after taking his tires. Nice clean stop for him at just under 15 seconds. We might actually see Daniel and Dylan in pretty soon themselves, because we're on to lap 45 for their stint.
Yeah, and talking about Eberhardt and Jones, we're seeing cars get about 55, 60 laps here. Granted, I think they're going a bit further because we had a couple of cautions at the start of this stint. But I'm wondering if they can actually go far enough where they can make it to the end without having to pit when they come in again.
Yeah, would make it so that there's one more to go. That's a good question. Crump has put up the white flag and said, I can't go any farther than this, so he's taking his service now. And those that can stay out, again, are at an advantage because they can trap many, many cars laps down at this stage. So yeah, some of them multiple laps down. There's only 5 cars left on the lead lap.
Trevor Williams into the pits from third. So other drivers on Eberhardt and Jones' strategy are Ryan Johnson and Jordan Berube.
Checking to see if Colin is still catching Eberhardt here. Yeah, he's still running him down, but I don't know if he's going to have enough laps to really do anything here. He's still going to need Daniel to pit to get back onto the lead lap. This is on board with Weatherholt, and he's now got 20 laps on these things. As soon as Daniel pits, he's going to be, like we were just mentioning, in the reverse situation where he's going to feel like a slug compared to him.
He will have probably about a lap lead, but like you say, it'll go away quickly. I'm looking at that interval between Eberhardt and Jones. Jones has just taken quite a bit of time out of Eberhardt's lead. Remember, they've got a race going on between themselves.
Yeah, that was about 4/10 quicker last time by for Dylan. I wonder if there was some lap traffic, or if maybe Daniel slapped the wall or just got a little bit loose. Usually you're talking fluctuations in the tenths around here. So if you're having 4/10 difference, something's amiss.
Now this is going to hold Dylan Jones up, letting these back markers with the faster tyres go by. Every time you have to slide out of a racing groove to let them by, it's going to cost you a few tenths. But then they're going to have to do the same to Eberhard.
I'm watching the laps. Okay, now Daniel picked it up this last time, but he had 2 laps in a row at 25.7s. Now he's at a 25.4. Something strange is happening with the 90. I don't know if he's trying to save fuel or if the handling isn't happy, because it doesn't look like he's slipping and sliding around. Let's watch him on board, see if we can figure that out. Kind of diamonding it, just letting it drift up in the middle.
That is the way you have to drive Dover here. When I first started playing NASCAR games, and I'm talking PlayStation 2 here, when I came to America, this was the hardest track for me to figure out. It really does take a lot of practice to realize how you need to drive this track. And once I understood the concept of diamond in the turn, it really helps you around here.
Yeah, I've seen it done a fair bit around this circuit, but whatever the case, the tires seem to be working much, much better for Jones, who's come up to the back of him, but he has to let another of those lapped cars on by with those fresh tires. Here he is on board. That white machine in front of us, that is Daniel, the leader.
Ryan Johnson just came into the pits. A bit of a shout out to Ryan Johnson. He's been having a decent top 10 run tonight, despite heavy damage on his car from early on in the race. All right, Dylan Jones going to try and make a high line work.
I think he's been holding on to his stuff. I think he's been playing patient, and now Daniel's paying the price for it. He lets him go, and Dylan's car looks great at the end of the stint. Remember that. Take notes on that, because if we come down to a long final stint to come to the checkered flag, advantage the 3.
Joe, I just had a thought. What if Eberhard's saving fuel?
I thought about that too. And
because he's not using the full racetrack here. This does not look like he's driving 100%. I think he's trying to drive to and he just said he's coming in. Yeah.
Is this going to be enough though? That's about 60 laps. That'll be right on the margin. But Dylan isn't. Maybe Dylan was also saving fuel earlier on. Yeah, I think a good call on that, Sam. Yeah, I think maybe what was going on is Daniel suddenly realized he'd made a mistake. He wasn't saving fuel, was trying to desperately at the end of that stint, and Dylan has been for some time. He's going much, much longer.
You'll see Eberhard drop down the order. A lot of cars are going to go by him, but again, he'll get them all back in the long run. Or even if he doesn't, he'll get them all back when they all have to pit for their final stop, and he might not have to make another stop.
Oh, let's see. If Dylan Jones can make it to lap 60, then I think that should prove that Daniel can make it to the end. But he's going to have to do the fuel saving that Dylan did, and he's going to have to do it from the start, essentially. So, and Jones is clutching here. So he's trying to stretch this out, and probably has been for a fair bit longer, because the fact that he's made it nearly to lap 60 here, to me, says that he's been thinking about this, and here he comes in.
He's coming in with 56 to go. So I think the advantage Jones has here is he can now make it to the end without really having to save fuel. I think Eberhard can make it to the end, but he's going to have to save a little bit.
Yeah. The thing with fuel saving, for those that don't understand, yeah, you can do it at the end of the stint and try to do what you can. But if you haven't been doing it for the whole stint, it multiplies, if you will. So, the more laps that you try and save, the farther you're going to be able to go over the whole thing. You can't just suddenly decide, oh, I need to massively save in the last 2 laps of this stint, which it looks like that's what happened there with Eberhard, and Jones was savvy. He was watching out for that through the majority, if not the whole stint, and it's paid dividends. And now he might be able to push a lot harder and already have the lead most likely when he returns. Let's see if he is out. No, he is behind him. Eberhard returned in front of him, but that might be due to tires.
Yeah, that would have been due to Eberhard having those fresher tyres for a couple of laps. Gap is actually 4 seconds, so quite a big gap. All right, so here we go then. We're at 54 laps left to go when Crump crosses the line next time by. Randall Nichols had been in position to lead the race. The thing is, Randall Nichols came in about 10 laps before Scott Crump, so that's why Scott Crump is going fast right now, but Crump has to pit again later in the race. We're not going to see any green flag stops for any of the leaders for a little while, though, and it doesn't look like, unless a freak accident occurs, we're in position for any drama. So we are going to use this opportunity to take a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel, but we'll be back to bring you the closing laps here from Dover Motor Speedway for this Rolling Thunder Racing Series. This race at Dover being presented by Rogue Energy. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Dover Motor Speedway for this round number 13 of a Rolling Thunder Racing Series here live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman. Alongside me is Joe Peak. We have Eddie Smith, our director, and Dougie Beard, the driver, the individual who has set up all our cameras for us, giving you this great view of Scott Crump leading the field around with 46 laps left to go. A 2-second lead over Drew Ballesteros, but honestly, if we stay green to the end, none of this is going to matter. There are only 2 drivers in the field who can make it to the end on fuel, and they are Daniel Eberhard, who currently rides in 9th place, and where has Dylan Jones, sorry, who is up in 6th position. I thought he was behind Eberhard, but he's already gotten by him. Dylan Jones is honestly sitting in the catbird seat. He pitted later than Eberhard. He doesn't have to save fuel. Eberhard does have to save fuel. I have a feeling that's how Jones has gotten by Eberhard already. And so it looks like Jones could be getting ready to take home his 3rd win of the season and extend his points lead. But Joe, it's Dover, and crashes can happen at Dover. We saw a lot early on, and the late caution here could really mix things up.
And remember, we've got these long green flag runs too. Yes, it looks like drivers have got a handle on it, but we've seen how loose the cars can get late in the stint. So it just increases the likelihood of managing to snag one. And the temperatures haven't really come down a whole bunch. It's gone down, I think, 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and is still at 118 here. And it's just going to continue to get hot on the racing line, too, because we're not getting those yellow flags to cool down the track. So I wonder if that's going to change the racing line a little bit, too, that you'll have to see drivers maybe explore a bit to figure out where is quicker.
Right now, Scott Crump is sitting in a nice position. The problem is that he can only do about another 30 laps on fuel, and there's another 41 laps of this race left, so the math doesn't quite add up there. Here we see Daniel Eberhardt, who for the majority of the season has been the driver to beat. He's not leading the points because he missed a couple of rounds, and of course the problem now is with Dylan Jones ahead of him in the point centre in this race, and right now in front of him on the racetrack. It looks like Dylan Jones would extend his points lead if things remain the way they are. John Lewis has just retired from the race. He was running 54 laps down, but he was able to run out there, pick off about 5 or 6 positions from cars that crashed out early. So I think he'll, I mean, he won't be happy with the 17th place finish, but it's better than what it could have been after a couple crashes he was in early. And I just saw a car in the pits, William Schwindenhammer. So he's came in to kick off our final round of pit stops.
So the 17 is good to go, but he's also 3 laps down here. He will have better tires, so he's going to regain some of that. If I'm honest, I'm expecting him to maybe just make up 1 lap here. I don't think we've seen anybody regain 2 full laps over the course of a stint. And remember, this is more like 3/4 of a stint.
Is that a world map on the back there, or is it two cats and one on the right is a Christmas? No, I think it's a world map.
Well, now I'm going to look at the world map differently, thanks to you. Yeah, Schwindenhammer, unfortunately, he was kind of put in this position much earlier on. I think he knew that he needed the cautions to come out at just the right time for him to get back in this race. So I think at best he's going to see himself finish in the lower half of the field.
Another car coming down into the pits right now, Sean Corcoran. And Sean Corcoran is actually short pitting. He could have gone further.
Yeah, which does surprise me because I was saying earlier, if possible, you really want to try and pit under yellow. But I guess maybe drivers are starting to feel like it's been a long time, it's going to stay green. In that situation, if you're confident it's going to stay green, you want to cut it exactly in half to give yourself the quickest times on tires, because tires will make the most difference on your lap times.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. This is one problem I have with Ferrari in Formula One, Joe. Sometimes they'll try and see how long they can take a set of tires and be like, oh, we'll put a fresh set of tires on toward the end. But then they take that set of tires so late, it doesn't do them any good in the final 10 laps of a race, you know? And I wonder if, to Sean Corcoran's credit, he's kind of considering that right here. You know, yes, he could go to about 10 laps left to go, but then a new set of tires isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. So Corcoran's taken a new set of tires here, and this might be a smart play for the driver of 43.
So here's the lap time difference between Crump and Jones, and as you'd expect, Jones is continuing to hunt him down. In fact, he's only 3 seconds back now at this stage, although it looked like it was not as big as I would have expected in terms of the differences between the lap times. Yeah, here we have it back up on screen. 6 to 7 tenths for most of them. I think the lap traffic might be stopping at times. That's explains the 3 tenths one.
I was just singing Sean Corcoran's praises, and he had a big slide coming out of turn 4 there. It's not the first time we've seen that from him today.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't want people to think that these are bad drivers. This is just a really tough track to drive. I mean, you were talking about it earlier, Sam, about how you found it tough in various sims. If we go to, you know, Papyrus, who became what is iRacing today, I similarly always felt Dover was pretty tough when I played NASCAR racing too.
And it's not just the track. We talked about the track temperature out here today, the wind out here today, the fact that it's a fixed setup. That's normally not the most, well, it's not the most stable car. There's only so much you can do with the setup. It just does make it all tricky in general. Seeing pit road get busier. Seth Reed has been in. Luke Smith has been in. Looks like Jordan Berube is in the pits now. So definitely, I think some of these drivers as well, Joe, that they're doing the same thing as Sean Corcoran here. They're realizing, let's split this last stint up in half.
Yeah, you'll get the most bang for your buck out of the rubber. Try and make it the fastest stint you can. I mean, you kind of, you always, it's almost, you keep bringing up F1. It's kind of like what they say in F1 with the rain. You always have to have the right tire on at the right time. And that's kind of what you're doing with your strategy. You're playing to what you have in front of you. Yes, you kind of need to play the statistics somewhat and predict what's going to happen, but you also have to take into account what is in the immediacy. And right now, what immediately is happening is we're getting long green flag runs. Doesn't look like we're seeing a yellow. Might as well play it like it's going to be that, and make the quickest you can out of it, even if it's going to potentially trap you laps down if we do get that yellow.
And the other thing that's thrown a little bit of a curveball in today's race is because we had so many cautions early on, it allowed a lot of the drivers to do their first pit stop either not at all, you know, we're seeing Jones and Eberhardt complete this race on just 2 stops, or when they came in for that first stop on lap 20 or so, they didn't take tyres. What does that mean? That means everyone's actually sitting on a fresh set of tyres here late on in the race if we did get a late caution. And that could certainly shake things up if that happens.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have notes on who took them, although we do have on our timing and scoring on who has been in how many times in a pit lane, but that doesn't take into account if they just took fuel, because we know a lot of people just took fuel and didn't necessarily take tires, as it looks like back onto the track here for that's the number 2 of Larch, so he's going to go 2 laps down himself as well. And Crump is pitting in. He's going to throw up the white flag, and Jones will now officially be our leader.
And again, Crump could have gone we got one driver missed pit entry.
I think that was Randall Nichols.
Yeah.
He's staying out of the way, and that comes down to him trying to pit in from the banking. We saw earlier how it's even tricky trying to come in from the backstretch because you don't want to drift up the track, and Nichols was trying to do the opposite of coming in from the banking, but if you come in too hot, then you'll find yourself just unable to get down to the bottom. This time he brings it in a little bit earlier, and he's going to make it.
We've seen drivers in the real world, we keep using real world examples, do exactly that, miss pit entry here. And then also we've seen Matt Kenseth, who has barreled into the water barrels on the pit entry as well. So good thing for Randall, he didn't do that.
Exactly.
So Scott Crump comes back out in 5th place. Weatherholt goes by on fresh tyres. I think Crump could be looking at a 3rd place finish here. Let's see if he can do any better than that.
I believe you are right. Yeah, because is Weatherholt able to get to the end from here?
No, he's...
And actually, he just passed Weatherholt, so it doesn't matter. He's back up to 3rd already, so that was quick. Everybody else pit to get their tires. Now he is a lap down, but in 3rd, and it'll all depend on if he can run that much faster than Jones and Eberhardt that he can both get back on the lead lap and catch them. I'm not really confident that he's going to be able to do that, but who knows? Maybe we'll be proven wrong.
Weatherholt can make it to the end. The problem is I think he was one of the first cars in that kind of kicked off this last round of pit stops, so he's going to be out there on old tyres right now. Granted, Dylan Jones and Eberhardt are out there on old tyres as well, but they're also a lap ahead of Weatherholt.
Weberholt, is that the new power couple?
It's not the first time I've done that.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to have to try and crunch the numbers to see if he's going to have the pace to try and get near to them, because maybe we were over anticipating. Remember, Eberhardt has to try and maybe save some fuel to get to the end. And if he can't make it, he's going to have to do a splash and dash to wrap this one up, which could hand over 2nd to Scott. And Dylan Jones is really going to be the tough nut to crack, because he's able to push harder, even though he may need to save just a little bit of fuel, but not much, frankly.
Right, my timing and scoring is not helping me out a whole lot right here because Crump is a lap behind Eberhardt, so I don't know exactly how far he is behind Jones. But I think he's only he's 3 seconds behind Eberhardt. So add that to a lap, he's about 26 seconds back off a race lead, and he's catching him at 1.5 seconds a lap.
But that number is going to come down over time too. So, I think it might be doable that he'll get on the lead lap, maybe get to where he can kind of see them down the straightaway. I don't think he's going to get within reach of them though.
Walker almost didn't see him there. There he goes by Eberhardt. So add that, a lap around here, 23 seconds, and Eberhardt is 10 seconds back of Dylan Jones for all intents and purposes. So he's about 32 seconds back of a race leader right now. So my math was quite far. Yeah, it's going to be close. Keep an eye on Scott Crump here.
He's going to be pushing like the Dickens too. That's the guess that's the nice thing for him, is the tires are so fresh. He doesn't have to leave anything on the table. But I mean, the harder you push, the closer to the wall, the more risks you're taking. He has to feel very confident in how he drives at this track.
Now, there are no cars on track between Crump and Jones right now, and that's good news, actually, for Dylan Jones, because the worst thing for Dylan Jones and Eberhardt, and we saw Eberhardt involved in it just there, is having the cars on faster tyres pass them. That's going to be holding them up. The fact that Jones is just riding his race out here right now, he can keep on clicking these low 25s he's running and not lose that much time to Scott Crump.
Also, and I mean, knock on wood, if we get a yellow, that changes things too. But I think, unfortunately, it doesn't help Scott Crump unless he gets his lap back here quickly, because he needs to be on the lead lap so that he can pit with Jones and Eberhardt. Otherwise, well, actually, no, I take that back. He'll be the lucky dog. So he would be able to pit and get himself on the same tire strategy. So disregard what I was just saying. The yellow would bring it back in favor of Crump.
Yeah, but Jones and Eberhardt have only been in the pits twice all race, so they have another set of tyres, both guaranteed.
Does Crump not?
Well, he would, yeah, but Jones and Eberhardt would be able to come in, take their pit stop. They know they're still going to be first and second. And it means that Crump would be restarting third with fresh tyres as well, but he would still have to find a way by Jones and Eberhardt.
Oof, we're up against the wall there, though. I'd say Dylan Jones is pushing, too. I don't think there's any fuel saving left that he needs. I mean, the point I'm making is that Crump doesn't look like he's going to catch them on this strategy. We're down to 11 laps to go. He isn't even on the lead lap yet. He needs to get on the lead lap, hope for a yellow to bunch him up so that he can attack here. Otherwise, I just don't see this happening.
Yeah, no, like I say, it's taken longer than what it looks like it was going to. And the big thing is Dylan Jones is just lucky. Well, not lucky. He might have worked this out through skill as well, in that he's found a pocket on the racetrack with no other cars. And when there's no other cars, you know, he's only losing a second a lap. Yeah, that's a chunk of time, but he's got a 30-second lead over Crump. He's got an 11-second lead over Eberhardt. Eberhardt, of course, is having to go slower because he's got to save a little bit of fuel. So we've talked about the top three a whole lot, and that's probably not going to change, barring a caution. Let's give a shout-out to the other drivers in the top 10, because there's a lot of great racing going on here. As a matter of fact, 5th through 10th position are covered by about 3 seconds.
Yeah, that could be a very good battle there for that top 5 finishing position, and definitely points that the drivers are going to want to fight for as we check in with Nichols here, who's definitely in the thick of it. That's Smith that he's trying to catch. Oh, has a checkup.
Yeah, a couple cars going into the wall right there. And so let's give a shout out to Drew Ballesteros. So it looks like he's got third locked down, but this is where the action is. Fifth on back. Ballesteros has fourth locked down, but this is where the action is.
And Jones, I think, or Johnson, excuse me, here looks like he's got fresh tires or something, because he looks much faster than these two. Nichols, I think, is on pretty much the same strategy. So maybe he's just strictly faster than the number 69 as he's going to get underneath him and leave him in the dust maybe if he slides up. Yep, he's got it done.
So Johnson going up into 7th position there.
He's got Williams in front of him too. He could try and chase him down.
And he's got time to do it. 6 laps left to go.
He's got to hustle though. Actually, what do the pace look like in comparison? Oh yeah, wow. Okay, 0.6 of a lap faster. Yeah, I'd say that he is in a hurry to try and make this up. So Williams has got to be looking over his shoulder a little bit.
Here comes another. Oh no, sorry, that's on Eberhard actually. Oh, this is going to cost Eberhard a lot of time. Letting this pack by. That could be good news for Crump. I think he'll be able to hold on to second.
Crump, yeah, 8 seconds apart is too little too late. He got back onto the lead lap at least. And we have the green-white checkers, so I mean, it is still possible here. Oh, I mean, look at them slide there off the corner. Johnson has been doing that all day long. Eberhard is going to be kind of looking at this one as the one that got away, I think.
Oh, and Hill trying to keep it clean back there. Trevor Williams, 17th in the point center in this race. Jordan Berube is he's down in 10th. So Berube's season's been okay. Trevor Williams has had a rough go of it. I think they'd be quite happy if it stayed green and they ended up with 5th and 6th here. Although I think Ryan Johnson might actually be able to pick off 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, I love what I'm seeing out of him here late in the race. He's definitely given it everything.
I think he'll get Berube, the 6th place here. Watching, well, he's in his virtual reality world there. Going to try and get underneath Jordan Berube, and I think this is going to be all she wrote as long as they keep it clean on the back straight. We're keeping an eye as Dylan Jones has just taken the white flag, heading off into turn 1, so we'll come back to that battle for 6th. Dylan Jones played the smart strategy in that middle stint of a race. He was saving fuel when it looked like Eberhard wasn't really thinking about it. And as a result, he's been able to go flat out to the end here. He's had the clean racetrack, he's had the right strategy. And for the 3rd time this season, Dylan Jones is going to have a race victory here in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series.
Eberhard is going to finish half a lap behind him today. So, again, it did not work out for him. Crump wound up coming within 5 seconds, it looks like, but still getting a podium.
Ryan Johnson was able to pick off Berube for 6th, but not Trevor Williams for 5th. Good points day for Daniel Eberhard. I'm sure he won't be too thrilled about the fact that Jones extends his points lead. Now, we keep making comparisons to the real world. Real world drivers have hit the wall while doing donuts here at Dover. Dylan Jones is smarter than that, though. Well, congratulations, Dylan Jones. We're going to take a quick break here on GSRC. We'll be back with drive interviews and a full race rundown. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Dover Motor Speedway, where we just witnessed round number 13 of a Rolling Thunder Racing series here. The race presented by Rogue Energy. At the end of the day, it was Dylan Jones taking home the race win by over 15 seconds over Daniel Eberhard. Joe's prediction came correct that Scott Crump was going to be able to see Eberhard by the end, but not get him, and he rounds out the podium in 3rd. Drew Ballesteros, great race for him. He finishes 4th place, first car a lap down. And Trevor Williams there rounding up your top 5. Great finish for him too. Ryan Johnson finishes 6th place ahead of Jordan Berube. Decent race for Berube. He's had a couple of incidents this season, I believe. So nice to see him up there 7th. Randall Nichols finishes in 8th place ahead of Michael Larch and Luke Smith rounding out your top 10.
11th is going to go to Colin Weatherholt with Seth Reed in 12th. Sean Corcoran wound up in 13th. Justin Rideout 2 laps down there in P14. And Schwindenhammer, I think, going to be our last finisher, P15. From there, we get to the DNFs for the day. No, actually, Bo Tiffany, I see bringing it into pit lane at the end. So I think he did finish the race. Everybody behind him definitely was a DNF. John Lewis on down through to 25th.
Yeah, and we'll see a few of those drivers here on page three, perhaps, that will want to forget today's race, such as Lane Doyle, Matt Molnar, Jacob Manning, Jacob Haynes, and James Shane Wolf, who didn't start today's race. Well, you can't have the Munster beat you if you never challenge him, so maybe that was smart thinking there. But one driver who was able to beat the Munster was Dylan Jones for the third time this season. Dylan, you are a winner here in the Rolling Thunder Racing Series, and it looked like a fuel strategy. You were on top of it from the middle of a race.
Yeah, these races a lot of times turn out to field strategy. So that's the first thing I'm looking at when we get in here. You know, what's the laps, what's the fuel, what's my fuel going to be if I'm saving. So it paid off once again. I've been on the right end of these for most of the weeks.
There was that point early on in the race where you and Eberhardt were the only two out there on old tires still, and you started dropping back. Well, Eberhardt definitely started dropping back through the field a bit. Did you ever question your strategy?
Uh, yes, but I know when the caution came out like 48 laps, and we needed to do 58 per run to make it. So either way, I think even if the caution didn't come out there, I think we were still going to be on the right side of that. I don't know.
Well, you picked off a win at Texas just a few races ago. You came into this race a points leader, and now you extend your points over Eberhardt. Eberhardt was starting to look unbeatable in the first half of the season, but it looks like you're taking the challenge to him.
Yeah, I just need more field strategy races to beat him. I don't think I can catch him on speed, but yeah, we definitely needed a good race after last week's debacle didn't go so well.
Well, glad you were able to put Kansas behind you. Who would you like to thank for getting this done?
Just thanks to Rolling Thunder League putting this all on. You guys at GSRC and all the drivers. The second half of the race was pretty clean compared to the first, so that's good.
Yeah, it was a little bit chaotic there, but concrete surface, high track temperature, strong wind. It looked like it was tricky out there.
Oh yeah, this is a difficult track, but I love it. Probably one of my favorite on here.
What about Indianapolis?
Oh, that's my second favorite, but we normally don't go to it anymore, so I'm a little out of practice there, but I definitely did love it.
All right. Well, we'll see if it pays dividends for you next week.
Yep, thanks guys.
That was Dylan Jones, the race winner, and finishing 15 seconds, but only one position behind him. Joe, you've caught up with Daniel Eberhardt.
Indeed, Daniel. I think it looked like we realized the fuel situation after you did because we saw you getting caught and we were trying to figure out what was going on. At what point did you realize that you'd been kind of hornswoggled on the fuel and the pit strategy in the end of the race?
Oh man, I have no clue. I guess Dylan saved right there at the beginning of that run, the first run before we pitted for the last run. So maybe that's why he fell so far back. I'm not sure, but he was the class of the field all day. He's for sure the faster car. If we could have got those green flag laps in the beginning, I felt like I didn't know, and then all of a sudden I looked down. I'm having to save fuel that whole last run. So I don't like fuel saving. It's not fun or anything. It's just the name of the game when you're that close and the caution laps fell like they did. But it was a it was a crazy rogue energy race. That's all I got to say about that.
It really was. You come in obviously trying to chase Dylan Jones, so this was not ideal championship wise. You limited things with second. What do you see things looking like 2 weeks, or I guess next week, I should say, when we return at Indy?
I gotta hope he makes a mistake. It's gonna be tough to beat him. He's very competitive each and every week, so he's one of the tougher competitors. Him and Scott Crump. I mean, what we're there's like four of us within 9 points of each other. So Justin Rideout put on this league, and that's probably what he wanted. So he's getting it out of all four of us. So it's going to be insane. Luckily, I got the most laps led. I got to apologize to Jared Mogard. I thought I gave him enough room. I don't know, and then it just did one of those things where he just rode up and just I hit him and I just took him out. I apologize to him. I don't apologize as in the race anymore because I don't know if it was me or not me. So I don't want to apologize for something I feel like I didn't do, but after I went back and looked at it, I was in the wrong. So I want to apologize to him on that. And the old D3 machine was riding out into the sunset at Dover Motor Speedway today, just one spot short.
Yeah. Well, how did the car feel out there? Because it looked like it was very, very tricky on today's set. So many drivers sliding off the corner.
I think that's a case of when you're so tight in the center of the corner, it felt like the right front was just going the opposite direction all night long. But then you're trying to counterpart that right front doing that by putting so much wheel into it. So when you come off the corners, it's just slinging the tail around. So it was very different. I've never been to Dover and felt like the right front was going to fall off. Usually it's a throttle racetrack where it gets looser and looser. But I think the looseness was coming from putting too much wheel into it.
Well, it does sound like it was pretty pushy loose then. Commiserations, it wasn't a win, but a well driven race today, sir.
Thank you.
That was the number 90, Daniel Eberhardt taking P2 today. And I think, Sam, it looks like you've caught up with Scott Crump.
Yeah, Scott, I'm sure you would have liked to win or a second place out of that, but uh, when you compare yourself against all the other drivers who did the three-stop strategy, you nailed it today.
Yeah, just where the cautions fell. Yeah, uh, just just got lucky there. Yeah, I had a fast machine and everything, and too bad I didn't get to show it because we had all them cautions early on and put everybody on different strategies. And I knew I was gonna be out front, and as soon as I seen them fuel stave, I knew if it went green, they had it. So yeah, yeah, just third place was a good spot. So I think I got a 0x and Daniel got a 4x. So I still gained points on him through the points. So and then Dylan got away from me, and then the people right behind me um, had bad nights. So that's going to create some separation between me and the people behind me.
Or thinking about the championship with a few rounds left to go. You've done well at the high-speed circuits this season. You've won at Atlanta and won at Auto Club. So do you think, are you feeling good heading into Indianapolis as you continue this points fight?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Definitely going to be challenging between Dylan, Daniel, and Collins fast too. As long as he keeps it clean, he'll be up there too. Uh, yeah, looking forward to Indy. Should be pretty quick there, and hopefully we get some green flag racing.
Yeah, definitely started with some yellow fever at the start of this race. How was your car feeling for you? I know you said you were fast, but looked like everyone was fighting, handling throughout the race.
I was driving at about 90%. I wasn't. It was just nice and smooth for me. Definitely running down Daniel and Dylan there, and then I had pressure behind. But yeah, my car was nice and smooth and fast, and just trying to keep the tires on it, and just didn't work out for us tonight.
Well, it didn't work out for the win, but still a solid podium finish. It keeps you up there in the championship fight. Who do you have to thank for making this all happen?
Get out. Give a shout out to Justin for running the league. He does an awesome job. Give a shout out to y'all. I like to go back and watch the races. Pretty fun to watch. Get a shout out to Rogue Energy, Stay Tuned Sports podcast on my car, Blue Egg Marketing, my grandfather watching. Maybe my brother might be watching tonight too. Get a shout out to my wife and get a shout out to Dylan winning tonight. And hopefully we can get him next week at Indy.
Well, we wish you the best of luck here, and thank you for coming to talk to us tonight.
All right, thank you.
Well, that was our top three finishers, Joe. And honestly, throw Colin Weatherholt in the conversation like Scott Crump did, but I think these are your three biggest championship rivals, and it was good seeing them all up there on different strategies, putting on a good show for us tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we needed a bit to get this thing wound up, but once we did, it got going, and it was a fascinating one to untangle, trying to figure out how this was going to play out. And I guess ultimately, Dylan read it best.
Well, we would like to thank all of the organisers and all of the competitors for coming out here tonight for the Rolling Thunder Racing Series, putting on today's event and giving us a hornswoggling show. Thanks to the team today, Joe, Eddie and Dougie. Make sure to check us out on our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and so you don't miss another moment here on GSRC. The Rolling Thunder series will be back next week at the same time next Sunday night as we head to Indianapolis. We also have upcoming races for our other series listed on the screen, so be sure to check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.